Hi, today I'm going to show you about how to do coil vases on day 3+, so finishing up your vases. It shouldn't take you more than 3 days. The first day is to make the base and start adding your coils, and then to let it firm up. You might wrap it in plastic, the base of it, while it's leather hard, so it doesn't get too dry. The dryness is very important so it stays together. Then day 2 is adding more coils, and today is day 3 where we continue to finish the vase form. So most of you are following your design, drawing, or template. So something like this form or this form. So you're required to have a rim or lip, a neck, a shoulder, and a body. You can choose to add a foot and handles if you'd like. What I don't want to see is just a cylinder like this vase here. We are going for vase form instead of just cylinders for this assignment. If your vase is turning out different than your drawing, that is okay, that happens. Okay, so I've added this one. This one's the exposed coil vase, but you can continue to make this form by smoothing them inside and out, or you can continue to make this form by doing the varied coil vase. That one may look different just because the varied coil vase tends not to completely conform to this type of vase. Okay. So you'll notice that there are marks and areas that I'll need to smooth later a little bit more as I go. So it's important that you go in and just use your finger. If you have to use a little bit of slip, that's okay, but don't use a lot of water. Water makes it weak. Slip also doesn't tend to do as good a job as just your finger rubbing the clay. To smooth it out the best you can, because you usually can see inside of a vase unless you make a bottle with a very narrow top. And it also helps with making the piece a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and stronger. So it's a really good idea to take a Ziploc, and I have more at school if you need to come pick some up, and keep the leather hard base wrapped. Remember, if you keep adding coils to your piece, it can just get weaker and weaker and weaker if you just add them on by weight. So it's best to either leave it out for a while and keep an eye on it, or put it by the fan to get leather hard. Remember, leather hard, I can still put my nail into it and add coils to it, but it's not so plastic and soft. Okay, in the previous videos and the video in Schoology, I've showed you how to roll out your coils. I'm going to remind you about how to attach them. If you don't have a scoring tool, you can use a fork. I gave all of you guys scoring tools. Or you can come to school and pick one up if you need one, and more clay. So you need to slip and score, or these coils will come apart in the firing. Even if you choose not to bring it into fire, it's important that you are slipping and scoring to keep your vase together. So you will slip and score not only the vase form, but also the coils you attach. If you don't do that, they will not stay. Remember that when you add your next coil, you don't always want it to touch in the same spot or meet in the same spot, because it creates a weak point. Now, to bring the coils starting to come in on the form, you start to bring the coils on the inner part of the form. This will create the neck, the shoulder, and the neck. I like to make a B or D form, and then this part, the non-serrated part of the tool cut at an angle, it works really well for that. Then you smooth the coil on, and then it's important to attach. So I just use my thumb or my finger. If you can get your scoring tool in there, that works well. So this is an exposed coil piece. How are you? So you want to continue to smooth those coils, and then you can decide, obviously, if you're choosing to smooth the outside for a smooth coil vase, or if you're going to leave it like this one, the exposed coil vase. So you're going to continue to add those coils up to build up the shoulder and the neck of the form. So it's really important that you're always scoring and slipping everything you attach, and that it doesn't meet in the same spot each time. So this one will go even more, so I'm not meeting in the same spot. So I cut off that excess clay at an angle, and you can either use your finger or your scoring tool, and then you want to attach. You don't have to make a vase form like this one. That's more traditional, but I do want you to have the lip or rim, the neck, the shoulder, and the body, and then you can decide if you want a foot and or handles. So now it's starting to come in, and I'm going to continue to add coils to build up the neck, and then the rim usually comes out a little bit. So I'm going to go in again. Sometimes I like to measure before I even start to slip and score, but don't forget to slip and score. This excess clay should go in your scrap bag. There is a video in Schoology, it's under semester 2 assignments, that shows you how to reuse your clay so you don't waste it and then you don't have to come in as much. It shows you how to wedge and reuse your clay. Okay. So remember, not meeting in the same spot, and it's going to start to come in again. Very important that you are attaching the coils. And now they're smaller, so it's faster to do it. Okay, I'm going to do another one on top and then do the rim. So always slip and score. And remember not to meet in the same spot. And then I like to overlap in that B or D shape and then cut my angle. So obviously if you are smoothing the outside, it would take you a little longer. You'll be smoothing the outside as well. And you can do a combination of some smooth, some not. Okay, so now it's starting to build up to a different height. This is kind of like a wasp nest too, which is kind of fun. So now I'm going to have the rim go on the outside a little bit more. So I've done the neck. So now I want it to be a little bit wider to create the rim form. So I'm going to measure it first and cut, and then slip and score. And you could add more or less. You can see what looks better when you're making the piece. So then I'm going to have this come more on the outside edge. So we definitely want to attach the coil, and then this would come down or up, whatever is easier for you to do, to bring it up onto the form or down onto the form. Okay, and then you'll just have lots of smoothing to do. So your best tool are your fingers or your thumbs without any slip or water. If the clay is really dry and creates a lot of friction, then use a little bit, but adding more moisture actually makes it weaker. So you don't want to just smooth this inside part. You also want to start smoothing the outside. If you hold this in your hand a lot while you're doing it, you might want to keep it in plastic because your hand is warm and it can dry it out. So there's a couple ways you can smooth this. I'm going to take that off so you can see better. Doesn't have to be perfect. Art is not perfect. It's the first time many of you have made a coil vase, so that's fine. Mine's not perfect because I kind of rush when I do my demos. So a little bit of clay or slip, not real water, is really good for smoothing. So this would work if you wanted a completely smooth vase, but it also helps kind of get rid of some of the ridges and designs when you are doing the coils. So apply a little bit of very soft clay or the thick part of your slip. And if you're out of slip, it's easy to make. You just put some clay in a cup and water, leave it overnight. So I could leave that smooth coil, or I could take a pencil or my stick. I don't like to use the point of it. I use the edge of it because it makes a cleaner line and less what I call clay boogers. So you would go around and do that for the whole vase form for the piece. So I spent about 10 minutes smoothing my piece. You would think that you would want to use your sponge wet on your piece. That is not a good thing to do. A sponge is porous, it has holes in it. So if you wipe it away the clay, it actually makes the clay rougher. Your best tool, like I said, is just maybe a little bit of slip in your finger. The slip will help fill the cracks. And then also your finger is not as porous, so it will be smoother on your piece. And then again, if you have your stick or a pencil, you can define those lines if you want a little bit better. Or if it's a completely smooth vase, you might decide to add some texture or patterns to your vase form. When you're done with your vase form, You want to just check it and make sure there aren't holes or things in it. And then double check that the base is smooth, so a teeny bit of slip or water on your fingers. Smooth your base. And then you'll want to write your name and class shape. Hopefully you have been taking your photos or videos as you go, because that is a requirement for remote students since you guys aren't at school for me to see you make your form. So your name or class shape, and class shape I should say, and then a final photo for remote kiddos of the whole piece or a final video of the whole piece. So the photos of in process go on one slide and then the final photo on the last slide. It's very, very important that you wrap your piece again. If it goes bone dry, it might separate. And then also, if you choose to bring it in to be fired, it's a lot easier to transport when it is leather hard. And then you have made your coil vase.